皆さん、こんにちは。U コネクトのアーサーです。今回の外国人とのインタビューは、もう日本に来て10年以上経っているニコラス・エドワーズとお話ししました。Nicholas is a singer-songwriter in Japan, and he actually has his own YouTube channel, Nick Channel, and he has a lot of interesting things on it. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. Actually, he also teaches English sometimes in his live stream, so I think you would find it very interesting. 今回の会話は本当に長くて全部は見せられないんですが、一部だけはお見せしたいと思います。I'll be able to share some more in the future, but I'll just share a little bit now. We talked for like 50 minutes. ニコラスさんが10年前に日本に来たきっかけと日本に来てどう思ったかについていろいろお話ししました。We also talked about a lot of other interesting things, so please check it out. Okay, great, Mike. Well, thanks for talking with me today. Oh, sorry, Nick. Sorry, Nick. Thanks for talking with me today.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the microphone, so I was
No,
like you were struggling with that.
I don't talk. I mean, my mics are my friends, but we're not that close. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very happy
Nice
that you spent time to talk with me today. I just want to I want to get to know you a little bit more, learn about what you're doing, and kind of what brought you to Japan, those kind of things. But yeah, so actually, just before we start, do you have any questions about this process about or any concerns that you have about this interview?
No,
Okay,
I'm pretty go with the flow.
that
So
sounds good. Sounds good. All right, man. All right, well, that's great. So Nick, tell us. So what kind of activities are you doing now? What do you do for a living?
for a living, for the most part, I work in music.
Oh,
So
cool.
I sing, and I write.
Okay.
So those are my two main activities. I've worked in just entertainment in general for about, how old am I? For about 10 years now, since I
Okay.
came to
Cool.
Japan.
Wait, how old are you now?
And I've done a lot of stuff, but mostly music.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. And how old are you now?
I'm 28.
28. Cool. I'm 29. We're almost the same age.
Oh
Awesome.
yeah,
But
I'll be 29 this year.
oh, cool,
In
cool. Yeah, I'm going to be 30. So my birthday's in August.
oh,
But yeah. So wait, so
crossing
you've
the
been in Japan for
threshold.
10 years now since you were 18?
Actually, since I was 17,
Whoa. Okay.
almost 11 years now.
Okay. And what do you do on YouTube?
So I just started YouTube last year.
Mhm.
For the most part, I'd say I do. Sorry, I haven't spoken English in a while.
I mean, you can speak Japanese too. That's fine. You can mix it up a bit if you want.
文化比較, like cultural comparisons, I
Yeah,
guess.
文化比較,
I
right.
don't know if that sounds like a really like normal phrase in Japanese, but it just sounds a little clunky in English.
Yeah.
But I just do compare and contrast. That's the word I was
Okay.
looking for.
Okay.
Compare and contrast Japanese and American culture. Talk about the ways in which living in Japan for so long, and especially because I've lived here since I was technically a minor. So
Yeah.
just the ways that living in Japan has kind of affected my perspective and my lifestyle. Well, I guess my entire lifestyle is. And so
It sounds like we have a lot to talk about today. I'm really curious to hear about your experience. I mean, you've been here for like almost half your life pretty well, no, since you were 17,
all of my
almost a
adult
third
life.
of your life.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
of my adult life.
Yeah.
I've actually been here more than a third of my life. So
Okay.
I grew up outside of Portland, Oregon,
Okay,
on the west
cool.
coast of the US. I was not in the city of Portland, Oregon, but more towards the suburbs and the country area of Oregon.
Okay.
And I was there until I was 17, moved to Japan. Now I'm 28. So we're approaching the halfway mark in a few years here.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to dig into your experiences. But first, I want to know, what brought you to Japan? What was the reason you came over when you were 16?
It's
17. Sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. The first time I actually came to Japan was when I was 15.
Okay.
And I had like a little kind of what's the word? foreign exchange.
Okay. By the way, just to tell you, you
happen a lot.
so mainly this is in English, but you can use Japanese too. I mean, こっちの視聴者はみんな日本人なんで。
なるほど。
使っても平気ですよ。
I don't know if it's even that like speaking Japanese is easier for me. It's just that I don't. I think my brain is used to talking about this in Japanese.
Yeah, right.
So the words that because I've living in Japan as someone who is clearly not Japanese, you get asked about this a lot. So I'm so used to like saying the same thing in Japanese over and over again that when I talk about this topic, it just in my brain it's immediately like in Japanese.
I totally get it. Sometimes I have my students, I say something in Japanese to them and they're like, oh, I speak English. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm just used to saying this in Japanese. So sorry, please understand. Yeah, I get that. So okay, so please continue. So you came from Portland, Oregon when you were 17 to do?
Yes. So I started studying Japanese in high school because my high school in Hillsboro, Oregon, outside of Portland, had a Japanese class. I think in a lot of American high schools, you have to take a second language as an elective, and our options were Spanish, German, French, and Japanese.
Okay.
And for me, to be honest, I didn't have any specific interest in Japanese per se. More so, I was just of the thought process that if I was going to study a second language, I wanted to study something that was different from English, because German, French, Spanish, all European languages, and the same, for the most part, the same alphabet. So Japanese just seemed like an interesting challenge, and I had no intention of becoming like good at speaking Japanese. But so it was just my elective course, to be completely honest.
Okay.
But as I started studying, I'd always loved music since I was very young, and I was very interested in the differences between Western music and Japanese, and I guess J-pop, or Japanese music in general. So that kind of the interest that I already had in music was kind of ended up combining itself with my newfound interest in Japanese. And I don't know why, but I did study a lot, but I was able to speak Japanese pretty quickly, like within like a year or two.
You're like going inside then.
No, I really studied a lot.
Yeah.
なんだろう、そういう向いてる部分もあるかもしれないですけど、but I think that I was just, they say in Japanese, 好きこそものの上手なれ, like when you like something, you just tend to be good at it. So I was just really interested in Japanese, and I really studied like hours every day, but it just wasn't, it was so different from in my mind, because I wasn't thinking about it like studying like math, because I hate math.
Me too.
But I guess I'm just not good at it, so that's probably also why I hate it. But Japanese was just like the fun thing that I got to do after I finished doing all the homework that I didn't want to do. So it just ended up, I finished all 4 years in like a year and a half.
Okay.
Wow. And then I visited Japan for the first time after those 2 years. So the first time I came to Japan, I already spoke Japanese to a level that I was not struggling to communicate.
Oh, wow.
When I first came to Japan.
This was after like 1 year of studying?
Technically, it was after a year and a half of doing the 4-year program. And then I studied on my own, kind of furthering that with the help of my Japanese teacher, of course.
Wow.
So I had been studying for 2 years when I first visited Japan.
That's insane, man. I studied Japanese for 4 years, but I guess I was doing it all the wrong way, because when I went to Japan, I couldn't talk at all. I planned all these things to say, and then I just froze. 頭が真っ白になって何も出てこなくてすごく悔しかったんですよ. You know? So I want to know, like, I wonder how did you study to make you be able to speak so well?
I think that the reason that I ended up, well, I already kind of had like a predilection. Is that a word?
Yeah,
I
predilection.
don't know why I'm busting out the big vocab here. I was always a good communicator, and I was always good at, I guess, English as well, or language arts, because I just kind of, I liked the kind of gray, like the not black and white-ness of language. And so I think that I already kind of was just good at communicating. And then on top of that, I studied, the way that I studied had a lot to do with Japanese entertainment because of my interest in music. So I wasn't studying in front of a textbook all the time so much as I was watching Japanese TV shows and watching Japanese dramas and listening to Japanese music. And those are the kind of things that, you know, it's important to learn words to speak a language, but it's, I personally think like almost equally important to know the cultural references.
Yeah.
Because when you know about, you know, popular Japanese TV shows and popular Japanese music and things like that, those come up in conversation when you're speaking to Japanese people. So I think I had a good or a decent knowledge of Japanese entertainment on top of my knowledge of the basics of the language. So it ended up being, when I was actually communicating with Japanese people, I just knew what they were talking about, I guess.
Yeah. You know, I'm really glad you said that because, you know, in my case, when I was studying, I didn't watch any Japanese TV. I didn't listen to any Japanese music. Actually, the first time my Japanese tutor made a mixed CD of Japanese music, I was listening to it and thinking, this is really strange. She got me like all this anime music stuff. Yeah. But yeah, but I just studied with like textbooks and I was interested in the grammar. And so I went about it in the way that you said just now to not do. And that explains why I couldn't speak for those years. But for me, like the reason I was able to speak is because I stopped studying and when I got to Osaka, well, there were people there and I just had to communicate with them. So I just tried somehow to communicate with them and then I'm here now.
Yeah.
But so
I mean, yeah, that's definitely, I mean, it is definitely important to know the basics of a language because you end up, especially, you know, it's a common theme with, I think, especially American people in Japan, where you come to Japan with absolutely no knowledge of the language and you end up getting to a point where you get by and then you just don't ever move beyond just getting by.
So many people who are like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you're, especially if you're at that stage, that's when it's really important to know the actual like meat of the language as opposed to just like, because those people know the cultural references, they just don't actually know Japanese. So
right.
That's where they get stuck. Yeah.
いかがでしたか？楽しんでいただけたらとても嬉しいです。今後も外国人とのインタビュー動画を公開していきたいと思いますので、もし次回を見たい場合はぜひチャンネル登録とベルアイコンをクリックしてください。That way you'll get a notification for our next foreigner interview. 多くの方は英語をたくさん学ぶのですが、外国人と直面したら頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこないという経験を痛感したことがあります。その方のために Uconnect があります。Uconnect ミッションは日本人が英語を学ぶだけではなく実際に使えるようになることです。I love Japan and I want more Japanese people to get connected to foreigners and share the wonderful parts of Japan. そのためにいろんなコンテンツ、いろんな活動がありますので、詳しくは You can click up here or you can click the link in the description box below. As always, enjoy your English adventures. 一緒に世界とつながりましょう。See you next time. Thanks for watching another video. I hope this video was helpful for you and enjoyed it. If you want to support us, you can click up here and look at some of our previous videos. If you want to help us financially and join our activities, you can click here for more information. And if you want to learn how to not just speak English in a lesson, but speak it in the real world, you can click right here. 今回の外国人とのインタビューはもう日本に来て10年以上経っているエドワーズ、Let me try again. Uconnect ミッションは日本人の方が英語を学ぶだけではなく実際に使える英語力を身につけてリアルで外国人を実際に使う